Hello folks, and welcome to this presentation on a wonderful opportunity that involves a wealth receiving activity, that is tax free, where it taps into the universal law of giving and you shall receive that I found to be very, very fruitful, very, very genius, especially given the context as to how our current money system is set up, which is what we're going to go into in order to paint the picture as to the greater context as to what our system is currently doing, to give the reason why these kind of activities have come about, and to teach you guys how exactly you can get involved in order to set up potential passive income streams for you going forward for the rest of your life. That can be very, very fruitful. So an overview of our situation before we get into the intricate details of this wealth receiving activity and how you can start earning today off the back of this presentation. We're going to be looking at banks, especially with this money system, and banks as credit creators, which many people don't even realize, which I feel is so important in order to get us to appreciate this program that these individuals put together. I think some 25 years ago now, it's around 2000, this program's been running. So banks are creators of credit. Contrary to popular belief, every time a loan is issued, it creates new money in the money supply from an account of zero balance. They do this by redefining accounts payable liability as a fictitious customer deposit that acts to extend the balance sheet. Banks don't take deposits, nor do they lend money. They are in the business of purchasing securities, which is your loan agreement, which is a promissory note, creating credit and taking loans from the public. Banks operate in a special type of debtor-creditor relationship with its customers, as money held on account to the customer's credit is not held in bailment, in a bailee position, not held in trust. Bank is not a trustee unless it is a trust account, and through a constructive trust, they will be liable as trustee. Nor is agent and principal agent relationship. It is seen as a loan given by the customer to the banker to do with those funds as he so chooses in order to make more profit for the bank. The banker's duty is to repay the debt owed to the customer when a demand is made, which makes it a chosen action. There's a couple of court cases there, famous court cases, Foley versus Hill back in 1848 and Crotton versus R in 1967, otherwise emphasizing that point. And government regulation the world over, including academia, teaches and treats banks as mere financial intermediaries, who loan other depositors funds and only contribute a small amount to the increase in the money supply via fractional reserve banking that happens through systemic interaction of the banks. In other words, banks are unimportant for economic models, ignoring the elephant in the room, which is banks as creators of credit. Every time a new loan is issued, that contribute to a whopping 97% increase in the money supply every time a new loan is issued. Only 3% comes from fractional reserve banking through systemic interaction. And this happens whether it's a loan to the government from the central banks, a business loan, or personal loan, for consumer spending or asset purchases. And here, this gentleman, Richard A. Werner's published paper that you can get online for free, download, have a read through, highly recommend doing so. Can banks individually create money out of nothing? The theories and the empirical evidence, the first guy in modern history of economics and banking to actually prove the three theories of banking, whether they're fractional reserve banking, whether it's financial intermediaries or creators of credit. And he obviously found when taking a loan out from a bank and tracking its accounts, it did not come from anywhere within the bank or outside the bank, nor any reserves held at the central bank, but it was newly created. So you can see what's highlighted here, just a summary of his paper. An empirical test is conducted whereby money is borrowed from a cooperating bank while its internal records are being monitored to establish whether in the process of making the loan available to the borrower, the bank transfers these funds from other accounts within or outside the bank, or whether they are newly created. This study establishes for the first time empirically that banks individually create money out of nothing. The money supply is created as fairy dust produced by the banks individually out of thin air. So you're going to ask yourself the question, if money is unlimited and these banks have the power to create money from nothing, then why are we all poor? And you can see here the Comparison with the accounting, okay, from his other published paper, where you have in table 1 comparative accounting, taking out a loan and dispersing it. Okay, this table shows how accounting conventions handle the granting and dispersing of a loan by different types of firms. You've got a non-financial corporation, NFC, a non-bank financial institution, okay, NBFI, e.g. a stockbroker, and a bank, highlighted in orange there at the end. In this and the following tables, only the change in balance sheet items is shown, as can be seen. Something is different in the case of the bank. Okay, so we can see down in table 2, disaggregating lending. Step 1, lender and borrower agree. This table shows step 1 of the loan operation, now disaggregated into 2 steps. All parties have signed the loan contract, but the borrower has asked, out of convenience, to delay the disbursement of the loan, which happens in step 2. Interestingly, at step 1, it is seen that the accounting treatment is the same for all lenders, including the bank. Banks are not different in any way concerning step 1. Okay, so you've got the loan on the asset side of the ledgers plus 100, accounts payable, liabilities plus 100 for all 3 institutions, including the bank. But where things change is in step 3, under table 3. Okay, step 2, disaggregating lending, loan funds paid out. So this table shows step 2 of the loan operation, disaggregated into 2 steps. All lenders now disperse the loan and thus discharge the liability. For firms without a banking license, the balance sheet contracts and thus reverts back to the original position. For banks, only the balance sheet remains unchanged in its expanded position. Banks remain stuck in step 1. In other words, banks do not discharge their liability. They merely redefine accounts payable as a fictitious customer deposit. And as we see in the eyes of the law, that's how it is seen. Okay, that money held on account within a bank standing to the customer's credit is a loan issued by the public, issued by the customer to the bank. Okay, and the customer is a creditor, the bank is a debtor in a special kind of debtor-creditor relationship. All right, it's a chosen action. So central banks direct the flow of bank credit creation through an unregulated monetary policy tool called window guidance or credit guidance of bank credit creation by giving orders to banks the amount of loans to issue, okay, and to whom and what purpose, which is allocation. This is otherwise what economists refer to when they say the invisible hand, without knowing it, that dictates markets, interaction, and overall performance. This tool has been historically abused to create business boom-bust cycles, recessions, depression, hyperinflation, and overall inequality in the economy. It is used to establish and maintain the scarcity economic model where all markets are rationed and the short side principle prevails. Whichever quantity of demand or supply is smaller, which is the short side, will be transacted. Meanwhile, the rest will remain unserved, and thus the short side wields power, the power to pick and choose with whom to do business. Thus, what determines markets is quantity, not prices. Okay, so obviously this finding had huge legal implications that Richard Werner highlighted, and looking back through history, it's quite evident to see that this tool has been abused and incorrectly used, especially when they create the crises. They can avert the crises if they respond appropriately when administering the correct quantitative easing, but 9 times out of 10, more often than not, these central bankers are deliberately causing crises and deliberately administering the incorrect remedy, okay, that only enriches those who are kind of positioned as bondholders and creditors within the system, which is the elite. Okay, and so in his book, Princes of the Yen, okay, which highly recommends reading, he's also got a documentary on YouTube that you can watch for free. He highlights, okay, this concept of window guidance and where it stemmed from. Okay, so on page 62, chapter 6, window guidance, I'm just going to read from the first paragraph down. By the early 1950s, the economy was growing, this is in Japan, he's talking about, at a double-digit rate, and loan applications had become voluminous. It was around this time that the bank credit allocation system implemented by the banking department took its final shape. The governor first decided by how much total loans should grow, then he and the head of the banking department, his hand-picked junior, Tadashi Sasaki, allocated this increase to individual banks as loan quotas. The banks were asked to present their detailed lending plans down to the names of all large borrowers monthly to the Bank of Japan. Tokyo banks reported to its Nihonbashi headquarters, others to its 33 regional branches. The Bank of Japan then adjusted the lending plans to fit its credit allocation plans. Since bank officials came to the Bank of Japan to be told virtually over the counter, the teller window of the banking department, how large their loan quota was going to be, the procedure came to be known as window guidance. Okay, on Japanese, he has here in brackets, Madoguchi Shido. Okay, the Bank of Japan decided the loan quotas of the large city banks first. A proportion of that was then allocated to the other banks. Since the banks in turn allocated their quota among their hundreds of branches all over the country, where they were further divided and allocated to thousands of individual loan offices, window guidance was the pinnacle of a comprehensive quota allocation pyramid that pervaded the entire economy. Okay, so you can see there how window guidance became a term used with the interaction with the central banks basically telling the other banks where to loan the money to, who to loan the money to, allocation and the amount, okay, which completely dictated how the economy was performing, because every time a new loan was issued, that was new money injected into the money supply, which obviously gives you the main cause for inflation, like I said before, boom-bust cycles, recessions, depressions, hyperinflationary periods, all throughout history when this tool was blatantly being abused in order to fulfill the centralized agenda by these international banking elite families, okay, those private interest groups that actually own the central banks and also the private banks, and have also captured the governments in bankruptcy. So we have another paper here as well, just to paint more of add more insult to injuries to the current system we're in. Richard A. Werner published another paper in 2018 titled Reconsidering Monetary Policy, an empirical examination of the relationship between interest rates and nominal GDP growth in the US, UK, Germany, and Japan. Okay, he found that interest rates tend to follow economic growth rather than lead. Okay, and shares a positive correlation as opposed to a negative correlation, as is conventionally held as belief for monetary policy in economics to control inflation. Rather, the interest rate discourse is a pseudo-rationale used to entrain and engage public opinion, keep the financial scribblers busy, and regulators unchecked, whilst the real driver of economic growth and inflation is kept hidden. Window guidance of credit creation via the central banks. Okay, very crafty. You obviously don't want many people, individuals, especially people in academia and professors of economics, actually knowing this, because it's still taught in textbooks that banks are merely financial intermediaries. They do not create credit. There's nothing to see here. Move on, and otherwise pay attention to the interest rate discourse and everything else, but banks as credit creators. So economists all presume the following theory: markets always clear and they are efficient. Okay, they assume the following axioms when modeling and predicting the behavior of markets: 1, perfect information; 2, complete markets; 3, perfect competition; 4, instantaneous price adjustment; 5, zero transaction costs; 6, no time constraints; 7, profit maximization; and 8, nobody is influenced in any way by the actions of others. Okay, so when they run their models, it's always this term that they use, ceteris paribus, all things being the same, which of course is only in the world of theory. In practice, none of these hold true. Okay, and the likelihood of these all holding true within their theories and models is so insignificant. It's like 0.00005% possible each time. Okay, so Werner quotes Alice in Wonderland through the looking glass when highlighting the absurdity of modern economic theory, where Alice is talking with the White Queen. Alice laughed. "There's no use trying," she said. "One can't believe impossible things." "I dare say you haven't had much practice," said the Queen. "When I was your age, I always did it for half an hour a day. Why, sometimes I've believed as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast." And Werner concludes in his lecture, "Now realised that Alice in Wonderland couldn't be a good economist. She was far too realistic. But even the Queen in Wonderland, who had most practice in believing impossible things, could not be a good economist. Why? Because it is totally insufficient to only believe 6 impossible things and just before breakfast. If you want to be an economist, you have to believe at least 8 impossible things all the time." So what many people don't realise is that most every government in the world is operating as a debtor in a Chapter 10, 11 and 12 bankruptcy, where the creditors, the central banks, have indebted them, the governments, and made them default, which resulted in them demanding their pound of flesh, which under a Chapter 10, 11, 12 bankruptcy has given them the right to restructure the administration to suit their needs, restructure the corporation, basically. Mainly raising revenue to ensure the debt is being serviced through taxation. Most every government lost control of issuing money debt-free to fund itself and had to go to a privately owned central bank that loaned money to them at interest, which is created in the same means we have covered when creating credit, right? From an account of zero balance, from nothing, mere fairy dust. So in order to ensure the government can still operate, the creditors took legal title to all instruments registered and administered by the governments, which included, but not limited to, registration of births, cars, goods, lands, and houses, basically having a security interest in all of the nation's GDP and taxes, as the governments, as debtors, had to pledge that as security and collateral to stay in business and service the debt. It is no coincidence that the rise of the central bankers in the 20th century was also the century for war and increased taxes. Taxes are their main revenue tool that ensures the debt is serviced. And I'll bet my soul that if you write into your local tax agency, Inland Revenue, and ask them for the gap approved accounting of where your income tax goes towards, show me that it does not go towards servicing the interest in the debt due on the national debt, then you get a month full of Sundays. They'll just fall silent because they know what the scheme is doing in order to keep everyone in debt peonage and servicing their own slavery to the private creditors of these central banks, which has got to stop, but it can only stop when people get educated, which is what I feel I need to do to help raise people's awareness and consciousness of this system, which is deliberately being overcomplicated to throw people off when avoiding obviously the truth. Once you know the truth, it's actually quite easy to understand and draw back the causes of why everyone has tough times and why there is massive inequality, and there's some game unfolding because these guys at the switch of controlling where they administer liquidity and money have been abusing this in order to create the boom bust cycles, as we said before, recessions, depressions, hyperinflation, and everything else that goes with that. To add insult to injury, most all taxes do not go to fund the government spending for their needs to maintain the administration, but to service the interest and debt owed to these central bankers, effectively pledging every citizen's lifetime of labour and taxes who is born in the bankrupt corporate warehouse of wherever you are to serve the creditors. And we all know the borrower is always servant to the lender, and that's obviously said in the good book, the Bible, Proverbs 22:7. And we got here, so Ronald Reagan's Grace Commission report of 1984 surrounding taxations, re-emphasising this. 100% of what is collected is absorbed solely by interest on the federal debt and by federal transfer payments. In other words, all individual income tax revenues are gone before one nickel is spent on the services taxpayers expect from government. So what is needed in order to fund government services? Simple. Only duties or impost on imported goods and excise taxes on domestic goods that are non-essential items is all the revenue required to run government. So you've got to think every single tax that's been brought in, none more so than the income tax, but when you go and spend money, the value added tax that's taken away from that, and then that money that obviously then goes into that corporation that they do their tax returns on, it all goes to fund. 99% of it goes to fund the interest and the debt due on the national debt owed to these international banking, central bankers, families, private interest groups who've created all this money on account of zero balance. So it's the biggest Ponzi pyramid scheme and fraud that has ever disgraced our planet. So to add even more insult to injury, the central banks do not pay any tax on the profits earned from their enterprise of loaning the government money at interest from nothing. That would defeat the purpose of the whole scheme and otherwise shows us all who really is in charge here and what taxes are used for: control. So because they know fear is the currency of control and debt incumbent households do not go on strike and the borrower is always servant to the lender, this is why they've set up this system, so they can stay in control. master-slave system. So the rabbit hole does go deeper, right, which connects into our birth certificates and what was done there with the Seddy KB Trust, our placenta, and the legal tricks and traps when joining the name of the father, which is our surname, with that of the son or daughter that created an account with the Foreign Siders Trust and an ens legis entity that we identify and act as surety for our whole lives. But I will save that, as I've already made presentations about this on my YouTube and website under Sovereignty and Law page. Okay, so the rabbit hole does go a little bit deeper for those individuals not already in the know. Okay, which is why this activity was thought up, because those individuals certainly knew what the system was doing to us. Okay, just to go back quickly, you can see here proof of the central bank, at least here in Australia. You'll be able to dig up the acts and legislation based on where you are and find something very similar. But you can see here the Reserve Bank of Australia and all central banks pays no tax on the income it earns. When loaning money, it creates from nothing to the government and or selling these bonds in the markets at a discount, as stated in the Reserve Bank of Australia Act 1959, section 79, that should be taxation, okay, where it says here, the bank is not liable to taxation under any law of a state or of a territory to which the Commonwealth is not subject, and the income of the bank is not liable to income tax under a law of the Commonwealth. Okay, so it's quite clear to see why this system is set up, who is in control, who is calling all the shots, who is the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, pulling all the levers and the strings here, acting out as if it's an invisible hand when it really is a visible hand. Now there's nowhere they can hide. And like I said, on my Sovereignty and Law page, I teach individuals how to claim that tax exempt status through simply asking questions and through silent acquiescence, forming an agreement of your tax exempt status, because they cannot prove where our tax money goes other than servicing the interest due on debt that is created from nothing, okay, which obviously reveals the whole fraud. So what I'm trying to achieve here is to paint the picture of the fraud that is inherent with our current economic and monetary system. The credit that is created is backed by nothing but our sweat equity and faith. It is unlimited, and those funds should be ours, but they use trickery in the contracts with loan agreements to swap and subrogate roles and let us carry the burden of the debt and performance of the loan agreement, even though the bank took no risk, can prove no loss, are misrepresenting what they do, and offer no consideration whatsoever. So as we are the creditors, and those funds were created off the back of your signature on that promissory note, okay, which is the loan agreement, it is daylight robbery. And yes, there are ways to challenge this, to have loans set off, as I teach in my Sovereignty and Law course. Okay, so keep that in mind with what's on offer here with this activity too, okay, towards the end. So given this context, you'll see the reason why activities such as this were created in order to offer a remedy of being able to receive unlimited credit money with very minimal effort. Okay, so let me tell you all about it. Now this is where I came into this program when, after reading Mary Elizabeth Croft's PDF titled How I Clobbered Every Bureaucratic Cash Confiscatory Agency Known to Man, which provided me the context of what's going on with the legal tricks and traps with the straw man, and also a little bit more on the monetary side of things. Okay, but it wasn't until 2024 when I discovered the works of Richard A. Werner to actually prove that banks are creators of credit. Okay, which obviously expounded the fraud even more and helped explain the whole economic setup, okay, and what is really driving whole economies and markets, which was a heaven sent. It was an absolute gem. And so kind of with that, I tied off all the loose ends of trying to find what is actually going on this planet. So yeah, if you're listening to this, then you know more than most professors of economics and individuals within the financial arena. It's otherwise not talking about this most salient fact that banks are creators of credit, okay, because even the governments, as I found out, are regulating that they're financial intermediaries. That's what the academic textbooks are pushing too. I know because I went through and did an economics degree at Bournemouth University in England, and they were pushing the same. Banks are not important for economic models. They're merely financial intermediaries. There's nothing to see here, which rendered my whole degree an absolute waste of time. Trust me, 3 to 4 years of complete rubbish theory. And that's what they want. They want us all dumbed down and ignorant enough so they can get away with pulling the strings and playing God on this planet when controlling every single flow of money and credit in across the whole world, okay, in every single country. All right, and this needs to stop. And this is why I'm putting forward this education. Okay, so that's the first step, becoming aware of the problem and then appreciating the solutions that we now have, which there are plenty. And this program is definitely one of them. Okay, so Now we're going to focus on what is this wealth receiving activity. All right, so the key points: it is a private activity. All right, so it's done on invitation only. You can deem this presentation here and you landing on this website and watching this as an invitation from myself. It is tax-free income. Okay, it is a passive income stream potential that you can set up with this. It is based off of the law of attraction, which is given you shall receive. You have no products or services to sell. Okay, so it cuts right to the chase of what matters most, which is the money. It was established back in around 2001. Okay, so it's been going very strong ever since. It's once in a lifetime pledge, okay, that you give or gift to set yourself up to receive an infinite amount going forward. It is a peer-to-peer decentralized network, okay, which puts you in the driving seat, and there's no middlemen or fat cat at the top skimming the profits every step of the way. So I said before, this is how I came into the program, reading this PDF, which is really good. But I've since learned a lot more since then, which if you folks want to learn more, you're on my website. Go check out the resources and the other pages. You'll be able to see the breadth and depth of my knowledge and the things that I've done. It was created by economists, lawyers, finance experts who are well educated on a current economic system, because obviously I couldn't imagine anyone kind of creating this system without having the knowledge of the current system that we're in, that we've just gone over, because that provides the invaluable context and the reason why we need to set up alternatives like this in order to help each other out in regards to making each other financially free, okay, and switch off that dog-eat-dog, dominion-based, zero-sum game of competing with one another, become human again, and help each other out, okay, as a humanity collective, all here, knowing that money is unlimited. They bloody create it from nothing, okay, so why are we all trying to struggle to get along when we can just help each other, chip in, a little bit of effort going forward, can set you up to receive a lifetime of wealth and abundance, okay? And it's just tapping into what we need to come back to is living from the heart, being conscious, mindful and aware, and giving in order to receive, because what you put out, you get back 10 times over. It's the whole mustard seed principle, right? That Jesus said in the Bible. Simple planting of the seed with this activity, what you need to give up front in advance will bear so many more fruits, okay? And it's exponential and it's infinite, all right? Based off of your own efforts. So 100% of the money you get to receive and you keep after qualifying. Okay, only recurring costs are the $180 annual web hosting fee for tracking software, lead generations and training materials that I'll show you guys towards the end. And you get to dictate how you like to receive the cash, okay? The program is normally was set up in America, and it was all done by postal mail order of cash, okay? Sent registered post, tracked mail. But the individual can also do bank transfers, you can do Bitcoin deposits. It just depends on how the inviter would like to receive the money, okay? And then once you're in that position where I am, you get to dictate how you would like to receive the money. So the one-up system, okay, this is important to know and get your head around. So it took me maybe 2 or 3 kind of going back over the presentation, the video that will play towards the end in order to kind of get this concept, but it is genius. Okay, so you can only receive what you pledge. Maximum pledge is $3,500 US dollars. This is all in US dollars, well below most countries' tax-free gifting laws. Okay, you've got 3 levels to pledge and join the activity at. You've got the 500 level, the 1,000 level, and the 2,000 level, which collectively brings you the total of 3,500. Okay, so you can only start receiving once you have given your first person up to your inviter, hence one-up system. Okay, so when I joined this program, I got educated, I followed all the steps, watched a presentation similar to this, and I got in touch with the guy who I landed in regards to his information that was telling me about this, and got in touch, and I said, yes, I want to join. So I said, how do you want the money? And he said, right, you need to follow these steps, go to the website, which we'll go through towards the end. I gave him 3,500 because I wanted to position myself to receive as early as possible the full amount. And he said, great, pinged it over to him, bank transfer. I then went out to try and find my next guy, who was the qualifier, to join the program under me. And it's all monitored under the software in the back end of the website. Once I got my first guy to join, okay, who saw the benefits of this program, he then pledged the full amount, 3,500. And so I was qualified at all 3 levels. That 3,500 went to my inviter. His name was Gary. He lives in Canada. Real nice guy. So I made him 7,000 US dollars, and now I broke away and put myself in a position where I can start receiving 100% of everyone's future pledges going forward. That is tax free. So remember, you can only receive what you pledge. If you pledge 1,500 initially and you find you're 1-up qualified to give to your inviter and they want to join at all 3 levels and position themselves to receive the maximum amounts early on, you can only qualify yourself to break away and start receiving a lifetime of pledges at that level, okay, which in this example is 1,500. You can always activate the remaining level of 2,000 later on by pledging that amount to your inviter and qualifying at that level. Okay, the reason why most people join at 3,500 is that if you did get qualified at this level, right, so you gave your inviter 1,500 and then you went out to find someone who's qualified who wanted to join, but they wanted to join at 3,500. Obviously, once you get qualified, you can only be qualified at the level you've given. Okay, so then you break away, you're only set for yourself to receive 1,500. So if your next person joins and they want to join at 3,500, the extra 2,000 skips to your inviter and they get to receive the funds because you've only given 1,500. Whereas if you started and gave 3,500, then you qualified at 3,500, then you're in a position to start receiving 3,500 from everybody going forward for the rest of your life. So you can see the incentive and why people normally join at all 3 levels, so they can position themselves early on to receive 100% of all future pledges as soon as they break away from qualifying via giving their 1-up to their inviter. This way you do not miss out on receiving, as all invitees end up rolling over to your inviter if you haven't activated all 3 levels, okay, which is a huge missed potential, but great if you're the inviter. So once you're qualified, you can start receiving all future pledges from all future members who join through your unique inviter's code, where they are now positioned on your receiving line. You become the hub in an infinite potential spoked wheel of receiving lines you can establish. Each receiving line is then working hard to find that 1-up member to give to you so they can qualify and position themselves to receive 100% of all future pledges. Okay, so it's quite easy to see like how powerful this program really is. Once you get a lot of people set up and they're there, obviously wanting to get qualified to be in your position, so they're very motivated, okay, and every single one who joins this program does exactly the same efforts in finding $7,000 for your inviter, okay, like I did for Gary, pledged initially $3,500 to him, then found my first qualifier, which is another 3,500, so seven grand. Thank you very much. There you go, Gary. That's the least I can do for me to receive a future of infinite wealth from other individuals motivated to get into the same position like I was initially when I joined Gary, and like Gary was when he obviously joined through his inviter, okay, way back when. So this example just highlights the potential that one receiving line can generate for you after you break away. So you got here Alan, right? You can see down there in the black and white. Alan was the first person to join the program through you. Then he qualified and broke away with Bob. Okay, so at that point you already received 7,000. He was his 1-up qualifier. Bob then gave his pledge to you and then found Cindy as his 1-up, okay, and broke away. Cindy then gave her pledge to you and found her 1-up qualified Dan, and so on and so forth. So you can just see how the money can just continue to come in passively after you've done that little bit of effort to begin with in regards to, giving your initial pledge and then finding your qualifier, and then those people who are set up in your receiving line are going to want to do exactly the same. So you can see the massive potential, the passive compounding nature of this program that can flow into your life and really set up a perpetual flow of abundance. Each person you go out into the world and find via the many different methods shared, you establish a brand new receiving line where this perpetual passive flow of tax-free money can continue to bless your life, as well as those who join and do the same. Okay, it's a win-win scenario for everyone involved. Now you might be asking, how is it tax exempt? Quite easy. Everyone who joins and pledges the money to you has to sign a gifting statement and a non-solicitation form. Okay, so you can keep that on your record. So if the tax man ever comes and asks you questions as to why you're getting filthy rich from this program, you've got a record of all of the gifting statements and non-solicitation forms signed by all the individuals that have joined that are well under the amount per person that can be gifted tax-free to any individual, okay, all throughout the year. And also, like I said before, once you know the system, you can ask simple questions to shut off inland revenue and protect your sweat equity and not pay any income tax, because that income tax is not funding government, it is funding and enriching the central bank elite creditors, okay, when servicing the national debt. So imagine you're the center of this hub, and each line represents a receiving line you have established by inviting new eager members to join. The potential is unlimited. Okay, each person, if they qualify, will be generating 7,000 US dollars for you. Then you simply times that by the amount of receiving lines you have, and you can see how this system can be very lucrative. I mean, I've heard people who are making $50,000 a week from this. Okay, truly incredible. But you only get out what you put in with this, and so it's all down to your own efforts. And it's just a matter of educating people and teaching them how it works and why it's so genius. And like I said, if anyone's got at least 2 brain cells put together, then they'll be firing like it did with me, and I can see the genius, and I wanted to get involved straight away. So what is needed to succeed? Learn how the system works, become familiar so you can easily teach it, pledge your gift to your inviter, pay the web hosting fee, tune into the training and learn and build ways to capture new interest and invite new people to join the activity. Find your one-up qualifier, be inventive and creative and have a positive mindset and attitude, and enjoy the activity and meeting new people and helping to share abundance, not only for you yourself, but for others too. Okay, so we're all in this together on planet Earth. We're all humanity, we're all family, okay? And we can certainly start shifting our consciousness and become aware through education of these kind of programs, given the context of how the world is being operated, which is completely fraud, in order to help us break free. And knowing that money's unlimited, you can certainly go to the bank, take out a loan. There's no excuse now. Knowing this, that's certainly what I did. And you can challenge the banks as to whether you can pay that back or not, okay, which I've had success of. And many other individuals have had success in discharging loans based on what I revealed at the start of this presentation with banks as credit creators, okay, because it highlights the fact that they took no risk, thus there was no consideration, there was no loss by the bank, and at the time the loan was issued, the books actually balanced, okay, meaning that there was no debt, you did not owe a thing. All right, so quite easy to negotiate yourself out of the loan agreement and the payment reschedule you sign yourself up for fraudulently through the banks misrepresenting what they do. So how do I join? Quite simple. Down below on my website on this page, you click on the link to the website and enter password freedom today. And then this is a screenshot of the actual website. So you can see there on the top right, click at the tab which says join, and then you input my inviter's code, which is 26099. And then you follow the instructions as presented to you in order to get in touch with me to gift your donation and to also pay the web hosting fee. And if you join at all 3 levels, I can pay the first year web hosting for you as a welcome gift. And I can also offer you 50% off my Sovereignty Masterclass Course 2 if you join at all 3 levels, okay, which is just something to consider, which is going to also help educate you on everything that I've done in regards to tax exempt status, like I talk about, how you can challenge, obviously, discharging your debts, setting up bonds with the Treasury to set off and have an indemnity, okay, when operating this theatre of commerce that we're in, issuing your own private legal title or allodial title for private conveyance, learning how to create your own securities, to issue them, control them, perfect them on the PPSL, the UCC, and otherwise make your life a lot freer and easier when navigating the system and protecting your wealth and sweat equity. Okay, so it kind of goes hand in hand with, like I said, the reason why this program was set up in the first place was because the creators and I myself, the reason why I joined, knew what this system is set up to do, to defraud the people, embezzle everyone's sweat equity, right? Misrepresent everything else that we've covered. Okay, so it gives this kind of program more credence, and the knowledge that I've gone through and actually put into practice, which has freed my life significantly. So I've walked the walk, so I can now talk the talk that you folks definitely may want to consider going forward in order to, help protect the wealth that you might be generating from this program going forward. That could be quite a significant amount that might draw some attention, that you might want to start investing some time in learning how to protect that even more. Okay, so I'm just going to watch a little presentation here to finish things off, and then you guys should have more than enough information and motivation to get involved. And if you have any questions, you've got my email down below this video, but it should all be very straightforward. It might take you 2 or 3 times to go over this presentation and go through my little website in regards to getting your head around the one-up system. Once you're doing the penny drops, follow the instructions, sign up. If you're stuck, give me a message, and we can get you into my position where you can start receiving 100% of people's pledges going forward for the rest of your life that is tax free. Okay, guys, so thanks for listening. I'm just going to play this now and we're going to watch this, and then that'll be the end of the presentation. So I wish you very well, take care of yourself, and I wish you a lifetime of abundance, success, and happiness. And remember, we're all in this journey together. We're all here to help one another. And so by helping yourself, you can help other people, and that's going to come back to you sevenfold, infinite amount. Okay, it's compounded, like I said before, with this one-up system, with the spokes example, with the receiving lines. And I want you to be a success, and so we can help each other be successes in this program and help get people educated out there and help make this world a better place eventually and inevitably. All right, guys, so yeah, all the best, take care, and yeah, stay tuned and watch this educational video.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. If you found yourself here without first hearing one of our invitation-only information calls, don't miss out. Ask the person who sent you here for all the details. You'll want to make sure you get all the information we've prepared for you so that you can make an educated decision about your financial future. You're about to discover the elegant simplicity and astonishing power of our unique, time-tested, and proven system. Our wealth receiving plan is the fast track to creating real financial prosperity. You now have the opportunity to be involved in the most established giving and receiving activity of its kind in the world. We have easy options that make it possible for virtually everyone to get started quickly on the path to financial freedom. Here's the beauty of this simple system: immediate cash coupled with long-term cash, creating real prosperity for you and your family. So let's take a closer look at your wealth receiving plan. Remember, we have many systems already in place, along with live support, to help you find the right people who want to learn about this life-changing program. As we like to put it, it's like fishing in your own stocked pond. When you say yes to this powerful system, the first thing you will want to do is to get qualified. You will start by sending your once-in-a-lifetime pledge to your inviter. Remember, that's not once a year, it's one time for life. The second and final thing you will need to do is give your first joining member to your inviter. Everyone who participates in this wealth receiving plan gives one person up to their inviter. So we call this person your one-up qualifier. And congratulations, you are now qualified for life to receive 100% of all the cash from everyone that you invite. Not only that, you are also in line to receive 100% of the cash from each of their first joining members. Because remember, your new members are anxious to start receiving 100% of the cash. So they're highly motivated to find their first member and have them send their joining pledge to you. Now that you have qualified, you are immediately eligible to start your own receiving line, where you receive 100% of the cash. In a moment, we'll review how your chosen receiving options determine the amounts that you can receive. And remember, there is something here for you regardless of your current financial situation. But first, let's look at how this works. You plug into our systems and find your first person for your receiving line. Let's call him Alan. In this example, Alan joins online and sends his entire $3,500 pledge directly to you. Then Alan gets excited and wants to qualify to receive 100% and start his own receiving line. So Alan goes into his stocked pond and invites Bob to join. Bob is Alan's one-up qualifier, so Bob sends his full $3,500 pledge directly to you. And now Alan is qualified. Our software allows Alan to break away and start his own receiving line, where he gets 100%. But notice that Bob stays with you on your receiving line until he provides a one-up qualifier to you. Bob is motivated to start receiving cash, so he applies what he learns through our daily support and online tools and finds Cindy, who sends you her entire joining pledge of $3,500. Congratulations to all of you. Cindy has found the financial solution that she's been searching for. Bob has given you a new member to replace him on your receiving line, and because he did, he is now allowed to break away and start his own 100% receiving line. Cindy stays right there with you on your receiving line until she finds her first person, Dan, who sends you another $3,500. And that allows Cindy to break away and start receiving 100% of the cash from everyone she invites. So do you see what has happened here? By inviting just one person, Alan, you have already received $14,000 based on the efforts of other people. And remember, Dan is still there on your receiving line, and he's busy inviting people to learn about this so that they can send you their pledge, which means Dan will be qualified for life. Take note here that there are no limits. This process continues to infinity. And you wouldn't want to stop sharing this system with others, would you? After all, people everywhere are searching for a simple, proven way to generate substantial amounts of cash. They are waiting for you to invite them to learn about this. And when they join, that starts a brand new receiving line for you. Just like our example with Alan. You receive 100% and you can have as many receiving lines as you want, working for you 24/7. Oh, and did we mention there are no limits, no restrictions, no cutoffs for as long as you or your loved ones remain in the program? It's a true wealth building legacy that can be passed down for generations. Now let's talk about how you can position yourself in the best way possible to receive maximum benefit. Your chosen receiving options will be the foundation of your wealth receiving strategy. Let me remind you that our system comprises varying receiving options to accommodate any budget. Your choice of receiving options determines the amounts which you can receive, and you may upgrade your receiving options at any time easily in order to take full advantage of what the system offers. Let's review how the different receiving options work towards your immediate and long-term financial goals. There are three possible receiving options: $500, $1,000, and $2,000 for a combined total of $3,500. Let's suppose for a moment that you participate in or activate just the $500 option. Now, Alan is the first person on your receiving line, and he sees the power of the program and wants to position himself to receive as much as possible. So he activates all three receiving options. How does he do it? He gets creative with his financial resources. Once he truly understands the possibilities that the system affords, nothing can hold Alan back from positioning himself to receive all three amounts. Now, because you are participating in the $500 option, you are able to receive at the $500 amount only, and the $1,000 and $2,000 amounts roll past you. Now watch closely. If you choose to activate the $500 and $1,000 options by sending a $1,500 pledge, you can now receive at both of these amounts. So you will capture 100% of all $500 and $1,000 pledges from your new joining members. And better yet, if you want to truly embrace the full potential of your wealth receiving plan, you will do whatever possible to activate all three receiving options. This assures that as you invite your new members to join, you capture 100% of all pledges from your directly invited members and their one-up qualifiers, and maximize your receiving potential. Members around the world are saying yes to this system every day because they understand that giving opens the door to receiving. They leverage their cash with a one-time pledge, expecting nothing in return from their inviter or this program. And they know that anything they receive will be from their own efforts as they share this powerful, life-changing system with others. Now it's your turn. Will you say yes? Go ahead. Pay it forward, and by simply sharing with others how they can do the same, you'll create your own legacy of immediate and lasting wealth. Get back to the person who invited you here and say, I want to prosper while helping others. I want to start living the life I envision. Tell your inviter, I'm in. And by the way, welcome home.
So it's otherwise a good presentation that showcases and re-emphasizes the power of the program. And so once you have full information and can be in that position to make a well-informed decision, and you're happy and confident, you want to move forward and get involved with this program, just to re-emphasize, you might be thinking like, okay, well, if I do that, then how can I go about finding people to join? Like, how can I capture their interest? Okay, so we'll get to that. It's quite easy. But first, you obviously want to head over to the website, put in the password Freedom Today. That gives you access to this little website that has even more information if you're intrigued and want to find out more and comb through in order to gauge and gain more information, more knowledge before you make a decision. But if and when you're happy, you simply click on join, put in my inviter's code. Okay, you then get sent an email. I also get sent an email notifying me that there's a new member who wishes to join. You would have selected also at what levels you wish to join at. Okay, you then get sent a ID number. and then you just put in your ID number and your password that you set up with this website, which then gives you access to the back end. This is where the software is automated and organizes the whole program. Okay, it tracks who's who needs to go where, who needs to do what. So it's simply a matter of following instructions that everyone is notified as and when new members are joined. Okay, and what they need to do in order to move on to the next step. Okay, when it comes to pledging, filling out forms, and obviously getting your one-up qualifier done so you can break away in order to set yourself up and start receiving 100% of all the gifts going forward after that point. Okay, so super easy. And once you're in, you get access to the back end of the website. Okay, and also all of the assets that I have that I can share with you folks that can be used either on a website that you want to create. Also got automated calls. Okay, so audios that you want to maybe set up also with a phone number that people can dial into. Okay, because this is how this program was, how I was educated about this program initially by Gary, and how it was set up to be all done over the telephone, believe it or not. And this is what they do the lead generations for in America and Canada on their website that you can actually purchase too. Okay, to gain access to those individuals. There's millions of them each day that are searching for how can I earn extra income from home, passive income streams, second income streams, part-time, full-time from home. So it's a huge amount of individuals every day looking to come across opportunities like this to set up, extra income for themselves moving forward. So it's just a matter of capturing their interest. And so the way the program is designed, and is still running actually very successfully, is simply through a telephone automated presentation that's pre-recorded. Okay, they used to do it live, and sometimes I think they still are doing it live. So it's scheduled 2 or 3 times a day that people dish the ads out. Okay, once they get the interest, they say, yes, I'm interested, I want to find out more. You give them a quick call, 2 minutes, ask them a few questions, and then get them over to listen to a pre-recorded presentation that basically, highlights everything that I've highlighted and what that video highlighted, but just over the telephone. Ask them to take notes, and if they're interested, they'll get back to you and say, yes, I want to find out more. So they'll either email you or call you back, and then you simply refer them to the website, get them to do what I'm explaining to you in this presentation, and now put in my inviters code, follow the steps, how would you like to join, send you the details, okay, whether it's the address, if they're doing postal mail order for the cash, and or bank transfer or Bitcoin, etc., and just go from there. And it's just really a rinse and repeat process. Okay, so there is that option, automated calls, very simple. All of this information is on the back end, and what I can send you, that's inside this Google Drive folder. Okay, you've got scripts for ads that I even used in the beginning in the UK as well, which were working. It captured a lot of people's interest because so many people, like I said, on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace. You can even run Facebook ads, you can run YouTube ads. The sky's really the limit, newspaper ads, and you'll be very surprised at how many individuals are trying to look for a way to break the system, become financially free, that this opportunity and activity might finally be the answer they're looking for, okay, that you can then capture the interest of and then guide them through the whole procedure of getting up to speed, getting educated. However, which way you do that doesn't matter, as long as you end up with the same result of getting to the website, putting in the inviters code, pledging, joining, getting the one-up qualifier, breaking away, then they can go off and decide to do how they wish in regards to capturing people's interest. Okay, so this is all just invitation to treat. Got plenty of resources myself I can send you, also on the website and the back end. Okay, so you also have drop cards, leaflets, flyers. Thanks to the internet, the sky really is the limit with this, and it just goes back to that principle: what you sow, you shall reap. You only get out what you put in. Okay, so it's all based on the back of your own efforts. Very simple to set up websites nowadays, landing pages. If you wish to go down that route, you can do both. You can do all of them. Okay, like I said, sky's the limit. And individuals who really do go out there and put themselves out there in this activity too are the ones that make $50,000 a week. Okay, and they're very outgoing. You can tell this when you listen to the training videos at the back end of the website, full of enthusiasm, and obviously are getting back what they're putting out tenfold. All right, so just remind you folks of that, and obviously what is on offer with regards to if you do decide to join at all 3 levels. You don't have to, but if you do, you get an offer to also join my sovereignty in law masterclass at 50% off. Okay, so that 50% will be added on top of the 3 levels, all right, which is a huge discount at full price as it is, given the information that's on there. That can otherwise educate you folks as to how to protect your sweat equity a little bit more going forward, how to get that tax exempt status as well, and look after your whole estate under asset protection, estate planning, and the whole straw man deception setup with UCC filings, PPSR filings, okay, and everything else that goes with organising and running your own estate, your own court of office under your own hand and seal, as a postmaster, managing, knowing the or mastering the postal road mechanics, running your own court of office, holding records, okay, and acting honourably and appropriately as a sovereign, okay, within this system, which will get you respected, and yeah, basically free you up to not be full of fear anymore by these folks, because ignorance is basically as a result of fear is basically a result of ignorance. Okay, so what dispels fear and ignorance? Knowledge. So get you up to speed, and it's very empowering. I know, so I've gone through it myself, and I've got everything protected. And so yeah, it has freed up a lot of my time, a lot of my sweat equity, and not having to also morally contribute towards this fraud with this whole system of taxing in order to service the interest and debt due on the national debt owed to these international banking family as creditors. Okay, so that being said, folks, that is pretty much everything I believe that I need to cover. If you have any more questions, then please do not hesitate to get in touch via email at alex@egmiddleditch.com. And just remember, off the back of a little bit of effort in relation to this program, you can unlock a lifetime of tax-free passive income stream abundance, which goes back to the whole parable of the mustard seed, right? That you just plant one little seed, okay, just do a little bit of effort, make your inviter $7,000 like I had, like Gary had, like you will, like many other people ad infinitum, to help each and every one of us out, okay, as a humanity, to break free from the system and get people educated at the same time. Why not? Okay, because we are all the ones we've been waiting for, and it's about time we take back control, take charge of our finances, learn how to play the game so they can't rob us, and otherwise share the wealth with one another without having any middlemen or people at the top skimming the profits and putting what matters most, the people and the money, in the power seat, in the driving seat. Okay, so yeah, remember the mustard seed principle? Give and you shall receive. That's what this program is based off of, and that's what we need to start shifting our mentality and hearts towards in helping one another in this peer-to-peer, decentralized, humanitarian program. Okay, folks, so with that being said, if you are interested, you know what to do. I hope that it's given you enough motivation and information, at least to get enthused enough to learn more if you're still a little bit confused. So rewatch and go over the website, my website and their website. And if you've got any questions, then please do not hesitate to get in touch. More than happy to help you get up and running and get you in the driving seat to start receiving 100% of tax-free money for the rest of your life.